Since I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist. Simply making something out of nothing is completely fascinating to me. And painting, well, that just always made sense. Now, as I got older, I wanted to give people that knowledge and show them that anyone could do it. But teaching wasn't something I thought I was able to do. My aim is to change that. You know what? I think I want to paint some mountains today. Yeah, let's paint some mountains. Come on. Hey, here I am. Back at the studio. My little tiny studio. Right? There's me. There's a canvas, a backdrop. Yeah, I don't really know how to start these things. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is we're going to paint a landscape. All right, pretty simple landscape. We're going to do some sky, some water, some mountains, some trees. Everybody likes that kind of stuff, right? I know you do. Everybody likes mountains. Who doesn't like mountains? If you don't like mountains, you're kind of a weirdo. But whatever, no judgment here. So let's see where we started. So I've already pre-primed the canvas. So I basically took what would essentially be the equivalent of an acrylic, sort of wet on wet style, where I put a little bit of water and a little bit of white paint just to help smooth these colors out a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the sky and we're going to work our way down, right? So we're going to begin with the sky and then we'll grab some water. We'll kind of bounce around a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to start with our 2-inch brush. See that? 2 inches right there. Okay, now because it's already primed, we don't really need a lot of paint here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dab just a very little bit of paint on the brush. You see that? Very little bit. See? Very little bit. And I'm going to start here at the top. We'll start at the left corner. If you're a lefty, right, start at the left-hand corner if you want, or the right-hand corner. I'm going to start either one, doesn't really matter, but I'm going to start here in the left side corner. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start here and we're going to begin with these little crisscross strokes like this. Okay, I'll get underneath the easel here, just like this. And as I start to work my way down, you're going to notice that it's going to get much thinner as I go. You see that? Right, that liquid white, so to speak, is really pushing together with that blue and creating a nice, even sky. Nice, very light, very even sky. See that crisscross strokes there? Right, and I'm going to come down to about, well, let's say the middle of the canvas. Now, when I've got this, see how these little brush strokes in here? I don't really want those in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to even these out by lightly pulling the brush across the canvas. See that? Lightly pulling. I don't really want to move this paint too much. I kind of want to just manipulate it slightly. Let me grab a little bit here. Very light. Very light. I don't really want to do much to it. Oh, that's really beautiful. Thanks. I know you said the same thing. And if you didn't, I said it. So, whatever. All right. So now that we have our sky, what we want to do is we want to begin pulling our water through and up the canvas. All right. Now, this is really simple. Now, there's 2 tricks to doing this. All right. You can grab just a little bit more blue paint. Again, not a lot. You see that? Not a lot. Very little bit. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take it from the edge and we're going to pull like this. Just like that. Now, if you did what I did and you added a little bit of water and you added a little bit of white paint, what's going to happen sometimes is that, depending on how much you add, it might dry out a little bit. All right? So, as you're adding it, if it does seem to dry out slightly, all you do is grab just a very little bit of white paint. See that? Very little bit of white paint. And what you can do is you could take that blue and begin pulling it up. Right? See that? Now what I want to do is I want to leave a little space in the middle here. I don't want to pull too much through. Add a little bit more blue here at the bottom, just so we can pull some more up. Now, as you're doing this, keep in mind that the way that the light will reflect is different each time. A little hair on there. Just take that, flip it up. All right? So it won't necessarily be even. So as you pull it across, don't make it one line all the way through. what you can do is as you're pulling it, just do it at different lengths. Now here's the trick. We do not want to pull these together. We don't want them to meet. That's important that they don't meet. All right, we want to leave some space. I'm going to show you why in just a second. Now again, take that, use that white if you don't have enough to help pull that color through. See that? It's very simple, very simple. All right, you can kind of go back here. All right, some over here. Okay, now, because we don't want this to be too dark, what we can do is as we grab that white, start to help pull it through very evenly, very light. See that? Very light. We want that nice lightness to come through. So white, help pull it through very light, very, very light. That's pretty. Yep, I like where that's at. I'm going to leave it. Okay, so now what we want to do is, essentially with acrylics, what we need to do is let it dry a little bit before we start putting our forward stuff in. So the way that acrylics will work is they're kind of known for their layering effect. So what'll happen is you can kind of build a painting from back to front, layering it together. That's why they're known for that. So what we're going to do now is we've got our essentially blocked out, what we call color blocking, right? We've got our sky and we've got our water. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some clouds. Now I'm going to do this with my 1-inch brush, okay? With my 1-inch brush. Now, all we're going to do is very simple idea. We're going to take some white and we're going to use the corner of the brush. Just the corner of the brush. You see that? Just the corner of the brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here and pick a spot, really anywhere is comfortable, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to start with these little circular motions like this. All right, and I kind of want it to be fluffy. See how that's kind of fluffing up a little bit? Oh, I like that. All right, and I want to bring it down. I want it to sort of bleed together so it doesn't create just an all solid white color. All right, see how some of that is white, some of that isn't? That's what we really want. Push that together. See that? Oh, I like that. Fluff it up a little bit. Why not? Just the corner. All right, let's throw another one. Oh, I don't know. Maybe there's one right here. All right, just the corner. Just these little circular motions, just like this. You see that? Just like that. Grab a little bit more. Maybe there's one that kind of lives off the side here. Oh, it does now. All right. Let it kind of fade away at the end. They sort of dissipate, right? That's what clouds do. They don't all stay in one spot as they move across the sky. They dissipate through the sky, and that's kind of what we're doing here, right? Yeah, a little bit more here. All right, let it fluff around there a little bit. Let it play around in your sky, right? Some parts are a little bit whiter. Some parts are a little bit darker. All right, there's a little bit more white here. Sure. All right, let it kind of throw itself around the sky. Maybe there's one over here. Kind of works its way this way. There's one at the corner. Why not? Yeah. Well, I like that. Looks good to me, so I'm going to leave it. All right. Now, here's the thing with these brushes. So there's two types of brushes that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using synthetic, and we're going to be using natural. Now what I'm using here, this 2-inch brush and this 1-inch brush that we use, these are natural bristle brushes. So when you essentially use acrylics, you want to wash them off right away, but with natural bristle, when those get wet, they take an exceptionally long time to dry, like forever, okay? So if you take this and you dip it and you try to pull it out, that's going to stay really wet and you're not going to be able to use it. So with natural bristles, what I do is I just take it and I wipe it off. I usually do it on like a paper towel, and just to kind of get enough of that paint off of there, just to get enough of that paint out, I just wipe it off. And then I'll move on, because I got a couple of these brushes going with me. So it's a little bit easier for me. So sometimes when you're working with acrylics, if you're going to do that, you might want to either have a couple of them or work with all synthetic, which you could pretty much get the same effect. I'm just trying to do it a little bit faster. Okay, so now that we have that, why don't we begin building our mountain? We're going to put our mountain right in the middle here. Now with the mountain, we're going to work it in two ways. All right, so first we have to, just like we've been with the background, kind of color block where that's going to live first, all right? And we're going to do that. I'm going to grab my synthetic brush, all right? Now with the synthetic brush, what you want to do is you want to give it a little bit of water inside of it, not too much. You want to dry it out, but you want to really shape those bristles, make them really nice and sharp. You see that? And then by doing that, what you're doing is helping the brush keep its angle, and that's going to be important, especially for these mountains. All right, so why don't we make this sort of a darkish blue color? That's what we'll start with. So I'm simply going to grab some blue, grab a little bit of black, really darken it up, maybe a little bit of white, very little bit. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pick a spot wherever you feel comfortable, right? But what we want to do is make sure that we don't change the angle of the brush, right? So if I start like this, I'm going to swoop it down. We'll see kind of what I mean in a second here. So I'll take it and I'll move it up and then down. You see that? All right, maybe that guy lives there. Maybe there's another one that lives right here. Yeah, why not? All right. Maybe there's another one kind of comes up like this. All right, don't make them all even, right? And remember, they're not pyramids. They're mountains, right? So the way that they work is the shape of them differs each time, right? So maybe there's a little bit of a slope in here. And it kind of comes like this. Maybe there's another one that lives right here. Bring it down a little bit. Maybe there's just one right there. Why not? Now here's the trick. When you do this, we want to fill these in. Now, as you fill them in, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I'm going to grab a little bit more paint here. Filling it in isn't the important part. However you fill it in is just fine, right? If you want to fill it in like this, grab a little bit more white here, lighten that up a little bit. All right, if you want to fill them in just like this, all right, as long as you mind the edges, because we want to keep those consistent, right? As long as you do that, pull it through, right? It doesn't really matter how you do it. I'm going to show you why in just a second. Because after we do that, what we want to do now is, because we're using a soft body, a mix of soft body and hard body, right? But right now we're using a soft body paint. What you can do is, after you get that in there, you can sort of manipulate that to pull it in any direction. You see that? So that's kind of what we're doing here. Fill it in any way is comfortable. Doesn't really matter. But what we want to do after we fill it in is make a nice, smooth direction. All right, so these kind of flow this way, a little bit here. This one kind of flows this way, something like that. All right. Now with these mountains, we want them to really be foggy toward the bottom here. So the way to do that is with this still on the brush. We don't want to clean off the brush. I'm going to grab some white. And as I start to push that in the bottom, it's really going to fog that up. You see that? Really going to be nice and foggy. Now don't go too far into the mountain and come back down, because you'll really pull that in with you. We don't really want to do that. So what we want to do is just make it nice and smoky here at the bottom. Right? Almost like a little bit of fog just kind of lives right at the bottom there. Nice little fog right at the bottom, right? As you move it through, press very lightly, and we'll pull it up. Create a nice fog right at the bottom, right? Maybe you could pull it through here, right? Grab some of that, pull it back down. Sure, that looks pretty. I like that. Nice foggy area. Ooh. Ooh. I want to hike this mountain. It's a real pretty mountain. I know it's what you said at home. I know it, and you know what? I agree with you. I'm not angry about that. All right, but remember, we want to mind the direction of your mountain. Right, so as you pull it through, and it gets really nice and soft. Right, see that? Really nice and soft. All right, and don't really worry too much about this part, because we're going to really cover that up with a lot of stuff in just a few minutes. All right, really nice and soft. A little bit here. Perfect. All right. Now with these synthetic brushes, like I was saying earlier, you really want to clean these off. All right, so I'll usually take it, wash it off, make it really nice and dry, reshape it again. That's important. See that? Take it, wipe it off, reshape it again. Okay, all right, let's put some shadow and some highlight in here. Now, with these mountains, like I said earlier, we're using a combination of soft body and hard body paint. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull some of that highlight forward by using a hard bodied white paint. And I'm going to use my knife to do that, okay? This is really simple. What we want to do here with the knife is you kind of want to get a roll of it. So what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll flatten it out like this. Nice flat area, you see that? Flatten it out. And then what I'll do is I'll wipe it off, cut the knife. So I get a nice, so as I cut the knife, I'll have a nice, here, I'll show you. So I pull that through, I cut across, and I'll get a good roll of paint. I'm not sure if you can see that on there. Good roll of paint, right? So take it, smooth it out, cut it across. And we'll have a nice roll of paint. I'm going to show you right here. You see that? Nice roll of paint. All right. So the important part here with the mountain is you want to be very loose. All right? Very loose and very light. Do not press hard here. If you press hard, you're just going to smash it into the mountain. We don't want to do that. All right? But you also want to start with the angle. You see this here? We're going to start with the angle, and as I start to work my way down, I'm just going to pull it across like that. Very light. Very light. Maybe there's some that kind of is here. Yeah, sure, why not? All right, flatten it out. Take that nice roll. Maybe this one kind of lives in the front here. Right? We do not want to press hard. You see that? Press very, very lightly. And we're just going to kind of play with these mountains. Something like that. There, nice little another little roll. Sure. Nice roll of paint, right? Maybe there's one that lives and kind of comes like this. Sure, why not? I like it. It's pretty. Right, nice little roll. Maybe there's one that kind of lives here somewhere in the front. Where are we going to put another one? Where do you want to put it? Right here? Sure. Right, maybe it kind of comes up, down a little bit. Fade down. Right? So what you want to make sure that you never do is if you do press too hard, we don't really want to smash it into the canvas. So if you do, just take it, even it out a little bit. All right, see that? Even it out a little bit. Just so it doesn't smash into the paint. Because if it smashes into the other paint, you're going to pull all those colors together. We don't really want to do that. We want to make one solid color on top of the other color. All right, now with this, we need a nice highlight on the other side, but you don't really want to fill it completely. You want some of that sunshine to be in different spots. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue and mix it in with that white. Not very much, almost like just a little light blue. Now, as I use that light blue, I'm not taking the soft-bodied part. I'm taking the hard-bodied paint and letting it just kind of sit right in some of those spots. Not all of them, just some of them. Right, and make it move in another direction. Right, maybe there's some over here. Right, maybe there's some over here. Kind of lives over here somewhere a little bit. Sure, why not, right? Maybe there's some right here. Maybe a little bit right here. Sure, why not, right? See? Super simple. Easy as that. No real commitment. Just kind of put them wherever they live. All right. So with this, it's kind of barren, right? we have our mountain, we have our sky, but we have all this water we're not doing anything with. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some trees to it. Now, what I'm going to do when I add these trees is I'm going to start, again, from the back, working my way forward. So we need to start with the ones that are way far in the back. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my 1-inch brush. Okay, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to take some of my green. I'm using a sap green today. I'm going to take some of my sap green. All right, we want it pretty dark, and the sap green should cover a dark area. Now, what I want to do here is I want to get both sides of the brush so it creates a nice sharp edge. You see that? Creates a nice, I don't know if you can see that. It's really sharp. See that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to tap. And we'll tap somewhere around the base of those mountains. That's why I said earlier, don't really worry about it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to tap. Now, as you tap, you're going to notice that this is going to go doom, 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 a little drum. I like that sound. It's one of my favorite parts of this. Right? Right? And all we're going to do is tap. Tap with that 1-inch brush. Move it around, right? You don't have to be straight across, right? But what it does have to do is at some point it has to end. So because it has to end to create perspective, what we want to do is make it a little bit thicker toward the end of the canvas, and as it works its way through, we're going to make it thinner and almost just kind of fades away. Now with this is water. So the bottom of this land is going to reflect. So as you get that in, all we're going to do is we're going to simply pull down like this. See that? Pulling down. Grab a little bit more paint here. Now there is 2 ways to do this. Sometimes people feel a little bit more comfortable doing it with a natural bristle brush, and then other times people feel more comfortable with a synthetic brush. Now I'm going to tell you, neither of those ideas are wrong, and I'll show you why. So if I wanted to, I can grab my synthetic brush again. I'm using a natural bristle here, but if I grab that paint, I can pull down. But when I do that, and I take that color and I pull down, the difference here is it's more of a flick. Right? With this, the natural bristle brush, I'm going to pull down, but with this, I'm going to flick down. You see that? Nice little flick downward. But you need paint on the brush for this. You're not pulling any existing paint. You're essentially adding more paint as you flick downward. It's really that simple, though. As I flick downward with a natural or with a synthetic bristle, or I will pull down with a natural bristle brush, just like that. See that? Just like that. Okay? All right. Let's put another structure. Maybe we'll go here. All right? And again, we're simply just tapping. All right? Maybe this one kind of lives this way, cuts this way a little bit. Maybe it cuts back. It kind of works its way this way. Sure, why not? All right? And then we want to tap it into that drum. Boom, 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 boom. Like that. Boom, 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 boom. All right? See that? Boom, 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 boom. I don't know why I'm making that noise. It just feels right. Deal with it. If you're painting along with me, do it at home too. Go boom, 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 boom. Trust me, it feels good. Just like that. Now again, as you're tapping this in, right, move it around. Don't stay all in one direction. And then pull down. Oh, see that? Pulling it down. Just on the edge. Now remember too, as you work your way toward the end, that's going to be longer, right? That pull is going to be longer here than it is over here toward the end. It's going to be much longer of a pull. See that? Much longer of a pull. All right. I like that. So what we want to do now is let's sort of fill this with some things. Now, what we can do, I'm going to wipe my brush off here. What we can do is let's add some trees. Now with trees, I'm going to use a fan brush. These are very easy and very, they're almost effortless when it comes to making trees because they have a very specific way of doing them. I'll show you how. So again, with our base color, that's that green color, all we're going to do is maybe we'll put, maybe there's one that lives right here, right? So I'm going to give it a little tap just so I've got one little section there, and then I'm going to take the corner of the brush and I'm going to tap like this. And then as I work my way down, I'll kind of fan that out a little bit. See that? All right, maybe there's another one that lives right there. Take that corner of the brush and just kind of move it back and forth, just like this. Now the trick here is, don't make it really wide at the bottom, right? We want to keep it relatively thin because it's not a Christmas tree. If you did, you'd have to put little lights on it. We don't want to do that, right? Let's, there's no fabulous right here. Right, it does now, right? Wherever you feel comfortable. This is your painting, right? I'm not here to dictate what looks good to you. Only here to help you through the steps. All right, remember that. All right, I like that. I'm gonna leave that for a second. What I want to do now is I want to fill this area. Let's put another guy, right? Or girl, right? They're not gender specific. They're trees. We don't know. Maybe they're a family. You know what? We're gonna make a family. All right, so let's put one right there. Well, you know what? Move it over a little bit. I like it better like that. All right. So we're just gonna tap. And now with the bigger trees, as you move down, you want to fan that brush out to make it straight. See that? Oh, I came from up here. Right, I had our little, make this a little higher, right? Right, and as I did it, I fanned it out. I'm just doing this little motion. All right, let's put another one here. Let's make this one a little taller, all right? Now, essentially when you make trees, some of them can be taller. Like this one might be a little bit taller than this one and this one. Or what you're doing is essentially creating perspective. And what I mean by that is, just because it's bigger doesn't mean that it is actually bigger. It could just mean that it's closer in perspective. All right, something like that. Oh, that's pretty. I think it's a really good looking tree. Okay, I'm gonna wipe this off here. See, now what we have is essentially we have a good color going, but we need some highlight, right? There's some light somewhere in there that we want to pull forward, so that's what we're gonna do now. All right, now I'm gonna take a different brush. I don't want to really muddy that one up, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a lighter color of this. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue, just to make a nice green color. All right, see that? Nice green color. Now, the way that you should do this is, the reason I'm using a mix of heavy body and soft body is because soft body paint stick nicely to a heavy body paint. All right. Now, if you want it to break, that's why I used a soft body underneath and a heavy body, but I don't want it to break. I want it to stick. All right. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. Now, with this, I don't really want that full body or that heavy body paint to pull forward. So I'm going to use that soft body and I'm just going to tap. You see that? Just light taps. Very light. Essentially just making some grass, right? Grassy highlight. I don't know why I'm whispering. It's really weird. I got really whispery for a second. That was odd. Whatever. Whatever, don't judge me. All right. Then you take the highlight on the tree. Now here's the trick. When you highlight the tree, don't want to put it all the way through. You just want to tap some of it, okay? You do not want to put it all the way through. We just want to tap some areas, right? Just some areas. So it really sort of pulls it forward. That's all we're doing. All right, let's grab, all right, do that a little bit. All right, it's not fully all the way through. And keep in mind, perspective here matters, because this one is going to be in the front. So I started with this one on the end, because I know that this one here is going to live right in the front. See how it kind of crosses over that one? Oh, that's pretty. I like that. All right, let's pull some of this down here a little bit, just so we have some nice water reflection. All right, some of it might be a little bit darker, some of it might be a little bit lighter. That's good. We want that. Okay. Now keep in mind too, remember during reflection that we want some of that in the water, but it is distorted, so we don't need a lot of it, right? It is distorted. Keep that in mind. And here is part of the reason that I left my other brush with that paint on it, because I just want to tap, what I want to do is I just want to tap some of that in, just to create that darkness that's in the water, okay? Same thing here. Now what I'm going to do here, actually, let's go dark first on this one. All right, I'm going to pull it down a little bit. All right, remember, it's distorted, all right, so it doesn't have to be perfect. See, that does not have to be perfect. All right, so let's add some grass here. Very simple, very subtle. Little grassy area. Just some green and some blue mixed together, soft body paint, nothing crazy. We want that darkness to kind of poke through a little bit. That's important. All right, remember to pull down, get that reflection in the water. Pull down, come up here a little bit. Make the sound. I'm telling you, it helps. Yeah, okay. I like where we're at there. Perfect. All right. You know what? Let's, I feel like we need a bigger tree. You feel that way? We need something on the side here, just to kind of cover it up a little bit. All right. So what we're going to do is, let's make a big guy. I'm going to take my 2-inch brush for this, okay? And I'm going to give myself a little bit more green here, just because I think we're going to make this, tree pretty big. All right, so again, pull it together on both sides. You see that? Pulling it together on both sides. I'll put it here. So you see that? It's really nice and sharp. We'll start here in the corner. And the way that we want to do this is we just want to tap. And tap, when you're tapping, tap around, right? Right? That's the way trees move, right? They kind of come forward. All right? They come forward a little bit. All right? There's no real wrong way to do this. We're just tapping. See that? I'm just kind of moving it around. No real... Look, I'm not even looking. Where am I? See that? All right, and let's, as we're doing this, let's pull... You know what? Let's give this a little bit of land. Right, maybe there's some land that lives here, too. Right off the side there. It does now. Hey! All right. I'm getting a little loopy here. All right. It's got a nice tap in there. I like that. You know what this needs? I think it needs another tree. Let's get that going here. Let's take our green again. Well, maybe it lives... Oh, it's bigger than I want it to be, but hey, some trees are bigger, some trees are smaller. What the heck? All right, that guy kind of cuts behind here a little bit. Sideways, lives off the side there. Perfect. All right. Now what we want to do is let's add a little highlight to that tree right there. Yeah, we'll go same color. But here, what we want to do is, so as things are farther away, they retain their color, but as they get closer, what happens is they sort of, they get darker, right? The silhouette effect happens, and that's kind of what we're doing here. We're going to give this the silhouette effect, all right? Now we'll start here with this back tree, all right? And we'll tap it in so it's a little bit darker than normal, all right? Or what I should say is what we have been doing. All right, it's a little bit darker. See that? A little bit darker. Colors like that. It's a nice silhouette effect. All right. Now let's grab. We're gonna wipe our. You know what? You know what we're gonna use? We're gonna use a different synthetic or different natural bristle brush here to make these sort of. So with this, I want these to really pop. It's a different type of tree, so those leaves are a little bit different. So I'm going to take my natural bristle brush, and I'm going to tap it to fray the bristles of the brush. You see that? Nice and frayed. All right, I'll grab a little bit of yellow, nice and frayed, and I'm just going to start. Let's make it a little lighter, a little bit lighter. All right, see that? And I'm just tapping it. Just want a nice tap with it. But you gotta fray those bristles before you do it. It's a different tree, remember that. All right, it's a different tree. All right, so these taps are gonna be different as well. All right, you don't have to tap too hard here, right? Tap pretty light. You don't have to put too much pressure into it. We're not attacking the tree. We're simply just tapping to give it a little bit of depth. Oh, see that? A little bit of depth. Tap, tap, tapping. Tap, 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 roo. Some of you know what that means. Some of you don't. It's fine. All right, and let's go here a little bit. You know what? We want to make these a little bit different because these are kind of bushes. So let's add. Maybe we'll add a little bit of red to it. Oh, that's pretty. I like that. A little bit of red to it. Make it almost an orange color. I like that. See that? All right, it's almost just some bushes that kind of just lay here at the bottom. I like that. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, I like that. You know what we need? Reflection. Okay, so with the reflection, what we need to do is, sometimes you could do it with a knife if you're using a hard body paint, but I find it much easier to use a soft body paint to make reflection. And what I use is a bright, this is the name of the brush, a bright brush for making the reflections in the water, and this is a synthetic brush, so I can use it in a soft body paint. I'll kind of show you what I mean, right? So back here, right, maybe it kind of cuts like this, right? I'm going to use a little bit of a, I'm almost shaking the brush across, see that? Right, and let it pull some of that color through. That's good, we want that. See that? Oh, that's nice. All right, so let's get a little bit of a darker color down here. I'm gonna grab a little bit of brown, I think. All right, we want a little bit of sort of land, I should say, off that kind of flows into the water here. I'll grab a little bit of black with it, darken it up. All right, so I'm using here, I'm gonna use a burnt sienna, is the color that we're using here, right? And with this, I'm gonna keep the angle of the brush and I'm just gonna kind of pull it. Right, there's just a little bit of land there. All right, maybe it kind of lives there. Right, it's just to create, just kind of lives off somewhere that way. Just so we know kind of where to start. All right, now again, with this synthetic brush, it's important that you clean it off so when you do put this reflection in here, doesn't pull too much of the color through. You see that? Just that little motion, just like that. Pull some of that through the water here. Yeah, I like that. You know what? I think we're done. All right, so that's a mountainscape today. Thank you for joining me. If you painted along, how did you do? Let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.